We're back with another episode.
This episode of The Face Off with Fleming and Fowler is sponsored by myapothecary.com. My Apothecary is the premier online destination for hemp-derived CBD that will help you curate a wealthy lifestyle. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed during the Face Off with Fleming and Fowler podcast series are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent any specific employer, organization, committee, or other group or individual. The primary purpose of this podcast series is to educate and inform. This podcast series does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. All right, y'all. So welcome to another episode of The Face Off with Fleming and Fowler. Fowler is missing in action just on this first part, just because she is currently flying back from her destination vacation situation. So we'll have her rehab corner section in the latter part of our episode. But today, again, we have another special guest that we're going to be interviewing with regard to everything that's kind of been going on in the news lately, especially with so much tension between police forces as well as the African American community or just people of color. And so we have a special guest. His name is, I'll just call him Officer Goodbody.
I'm cool with that. I like that.
You're cool with that? Okay. So we have some questions that we want to ask you. I know we had our other special guest, Officer Kim Possible, on our episode before last. I think it was episode 29. And we got really, really great feedback. So I wanted to talk to an African-American police officer. And Officer Goodbody has actually been on the force for how many years have you been a police officer now?
It's been about 4 years.
4 years? Okay. 4 years. Do you want to say specifically what area that you police? Like if you're in SWAT or, street beat or I don't know.
So, yeah, I've been 4 years total, 2 years on the south side and 2 years gang unit.
Okay.
So.
All right. So 2 years gang unit. All right. So why did you want to become a police officer in the first place?
It was one of those things in college where, you kind of lost, you don't know what you want to do.
Yeah.
And, I started taking courses. I jumped into architecture and then some other stuff, and that didn't work out, obviously.
Yeah.
So then I jumped into, criminal justice and public administration, and I thought it was interesting. So, I took that and I started applying after I graduated to, federal agencies, other police departments, local, and honestly, I just like serving the community. I was a karate instructor, so that kind of blended well with talking to people, and I found that I was good at that.
Yeah. Okay. And so how is it policing the particular community that you police here?
So it's very diverse in a way, but it's obviously more so Hispanic. I would say that here it's a little different than any other major cities. As we go further north from here, obviously things change. But here, for some reason, it just feels like, I guess, a home vibe you get.
Yeah.
And the community is very positive with us. We're very positive with them. It just seems like the relationship has been really well here, as opposed to other places around the world I can't speak for.
Yeah.
But, in my opinion here, it's just been a good time.
So how big is the police force that you're currently on? Like, you can give like a rough estimate of like how many police officers you all have usually on a, regular basis.
I would say we have roughly more or less 2,000 that are sworn. So
in the city?
In the city. It's a big city.
Yo.
So, yeah.
2,000. Good God almighty.
Right.
I did not realize that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I'm just ballparking it.
Yeah.
But, where you see NYPD, LAPD, like
right.
huge departments. We have a huge population here, but the department itself is not that big.
Yeah. So how big is like your gang unit department?
I would say maybe a total of, I'm just throwing it out there, maybe 60 officers.
Okay.
At full capacity.
Yeah.
I would say.
And is that including like day shift and night shift as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There could be more, but if you go to the patrol sector, you're going to have obviously more officers.
Right.
Because the sections of the city are so much bigger. So
Gotcha.
We have to police all over.
Right. Exactly. So what is it like being a black police officer?
And see, I've gotten this question a few times from people, and it's different. To be honest, I guess when I'm dealing with my community, the black community, right, I obviously feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
But there are times where, like we talked about earlier, where, I get called the Uncle Tom, the traitor. I've even been called the N-word, what I'm saying? And that's from people that look just like me.
Right.
And even other people, white, Hispanic, have also called me that. So, it's different, especially in a time right now where, I've talked to other black police officers, and they would say, hey, we feel strange being out here at the riots.
Yeah.
You're seeing someone, George Floyd, you're seeing that happen, and as a black man, that could be me.
Yeah.
Right. So being on this side of the house, it's definitely eye opener.
So let me ask you this question with regard to how you police, like your particular department. You don't have to go into crazy specifics, because of course we're keeping your identity anonymous. But what does your training look like in your particular department? So like even from when you were on, the patrol versus now you being on the gang side. What does your annual, quarterly, or bi-weekly or whatever training kind of look like in your department?
So we have mandatory annually training across the board for this state. Every officer here has to do it. And I will say, just to break it down a little bit, is a lot of it is classroom. Yeah. And a lot of it is hands-on, because obviously, our job is a whole lot of hands-on. But annually for sure, and on the specialized unit that I'm on, we do quarterly trainings, and every 3 months,
right? Or
it could be once a month.
Okay.
It's just thrown at us very, spontaneously. But being on a unit like this, the training is like very important, and they can't emphasize it enough for us. So
gotcha. So when it comes to like your quarterly, monthly, or annual training, when it comes to actually firing your weapon and going through like your tactical kind of scenarios, what does that look like on your particular force?
So like firearms, driving, stuff like that. Is that what you're going for?
Yeah.
Okay. So every year for 1 week out of the year, you have to do specific training on firearms, and you're going to have to score a certain score.
Yeah.
And for my particular department, we shoot for the highest. So we don't want to let people pass with a 70 or something like that, or even an 80 at times. We want to go and try to exceed that, because obviously we have a lot of responsibility in our hands. And like I said, out of the whole 365, you get a week, and out of that week, you could be driving for 30 hours and stuff like that. And I believe our curriculum, it's laid out almost like a college program.
Gotcha.
I want to say it's over 600 hours of of material. When you go through the academy, it's over 600 hours of 8 months of an academy, and you have to kind of condense that into a week and get every officer trained on that. So
gotcha.
It's a lot of training.
Yeah. So how likely is it to, let's say, you have to, meet your particular quota with regard to like shooting your weapon. How many rounds do you have to shoot? And let's say you get below a 70, is there like a remediation part that comes into play? Or is it just like, oh, okay, well, you didn't pass, so you can no longer be a police officer? Kind of like, what does that look like?
So so I can't really speak for the instructor side of it, the firearms instructor, because I'm not one.
Yeah.
And I've never failed, so
humble brag.
So thank God.
Yeah.
But I do know, if you're in the academy as a cadet and you fail that course, you can't pass.
Yeah.
But as an officer now, let's say you go qualify and you shoot below the average. Well, there's remedial training until you get up to that.
Gotcha.
And I'm sure, I'm not familiar with it, but I'm sure the department has a situation where you can't be on the street because you're a liability.
Gotcha.
So
okay. So does your agency provide like any training on how to deal with mental health situations in the community, especially when you guys get those wellness check calls and stuff like that? Like, what does the training look like for that? How many hours do you guys have to dedicate for mental health illness training?
Absolutely. So I heard about the last podcast.
Yeah.
We're talking about CIT training, and mental health, it has slowly become a huge part or component in policing, because that's an area where it's very tough for us to decipher right away what to do. Right. And not everyone is familiar with mental health issues, and being able to recognize those things when you get to a call. So for us, it's definitely a 40-hour course. Yeah. And on top of that, in order to complete your intermediate It's just continuing education.
Yeah.
You have to do another 40 or to a 60 on top of that training you already did.
Gotcha.
And a lot of it is de-escalation. A lot of it entails just, all these different things to look for in people. So.
Gotcha. So when it comes to like the situation that, recently happened with Ma'Khia Bryant in Columbus, Ohio, and the police officer that, was responding to a call with a fight with a bunch of girls, right? And she obviously had a knife that was present to defend herself as she was getting jumped. And in the video, you see him jump out of the car, and in less than 9 seconds, it took for him to, arm himself and then shoot her 4 times, even when another young lady fell in front of him. So, like, I know that training obviously is very different, or his response to it is very different, but are you guys on your particular force, especially with you working with gang violence, are you guys trained to shoot to kill, or are you guys trained to, disarm the person? Because I know with Officer Kim Possible, she was saying, listen, we are not trained to shoot to kill, but we are trained to assess the situation. But in assessing the situation, why is it that police officers have so much rule and reign that you can make a split-second decision with a civilian in less than 10 seconds versus, a military officer, obviously, who's in active combat? You don't have 9 seconds to figure it out. You just got to figure it out in 0.2, right? So what does your training look like as far as, are you trained to shoot to kill, or are you trained to slow down the perpetrator? Got
you. So similar to Officer Kim Possible, it's the same thing for us. We are not allowed, and we do not shoot to kill. We shoot to stop the threat. So in that situation, I don't want to Monday night quarterback it, is what we call it. Yeah. Because I'm not that officer, and I don't know if I would have handled it that way. But could that have happened to me as an officer? Yes. Like, I kind of put myself in the same shoes, and I talk to my buddies about any situation that comes out in the news, right? The media likes to throw it out there real quick. Yeah. And I looked at it and I said, hey, like, I'm a black officer, right? I pull up on scene, and it's a chaotic situation. Everybody's fighting, right? And I know there was things about she called the police, stuff like that. I show up on scene. I don't know who called. Yeah. You can try to find who that is, but in the 0.10 of a second, you may not. It's just not going to happen, right? So in that situation, as we're talking about shoot to kill, and we don't do that, I believe that officer, and if it was me, saw the knife, and we all know that is a deadly weapon, and it's a force-on-force situation. Yeah. So I know some people said, hey, well, that girl didn't come after the officer. She went after someone else, right? Well, it's my job to protect myself and life, anyone else's. So, in my opinion, I agree with what he did. It is an unfortunate situation, obviously, with a 16-year-old girl. But, for us officers having to, let's say he didn't shoot, and some people have said, use a taser. And tasers are not 100% effective, right? Yeah. So if that was my family member, and I wanted an officer to respond, and I saw someone about to get stabbed on my family, and I'm like, oh man, I could be upset at him for, why'd you use a taser, man? It's not that effective, right? Yeah. And could have lost another life, so that's 2 lives. So it's a terrible situation for the officer to be in. Yeah. But again, I probably would have responded the same way, seeing that there was a weapon involved. So would you have so saying that you agree with his course of action to use his firearm, would you have shot to either, like you said, to stop the threat, right? But does the stopping the threat include killing this young lady? You could have shot her in the leg and stopped her the very same way. Like, how Jamie Foxx, I use this example all the time, how Jamie Foxx blew off Samuel L. Jackson's kneecaps, right, in Django. So that could clearly stop her in that moment. But why did this young lady have to die? Because like let's say you said, again, he came on the scene not knowing exactly what was happening, not knowing what was going on. He just wanted to stop a threat, right? Let's take race out of it. Why did the person need to die when there's been so many incidences of other Americans, particularly white people, coming at officers with machetes, guns, all kind of situations, and they're just backing up and retreating? And it's just like, this 15-year-old girl, you felt like in that moment that was appropriate to shoot and kill her 4 times when you are the person that's trained to shoot this gun and know that, and you understand the power that it holds. Like, shooting her in the leg, to me, if I were a police officer, to me that would have been enough. Like, I'm never going to consciously, and obviously because I'm not a police officer, so my mindset is very different, coming on a scene with the intent to
kill to save other lives, unless obviously you got a bomb strapped to you, you got a gun to somebody's head. Yes, we trying to get it going, but to that degree of shooting her 4 different times when she wasn't even coming at you. Like I probably would have let her stab the girl, so at least I have it on camera to say, okay, yeah, you stabbed somebody. The girl may have lived or died, you know what I mean? But that's from a civilian, not from a police officer. So I don't.
So I definitely understand what you're saying, and I guess this is the transparency we need and the conversations we need to have with people. Yeah. And I always encourage people to do a ride along and stuff like that, but get into specifically what happened. Yeah. We're gonna talk about how you said shooting someone in the leg, right? So, maybe. Or I'm gonna just say this: whenever you do fire your firearm, or you're in a controlled environment on the range, right? Your nerves aren't up. You're gonna score high. Things are great. The weather's great. When you show up on scene and a huge fight is breaking out, your accuracy of a shot has now gone from the highest you scored in the academy lower because your adrenaline's so high up. Yeah. So shooting someone in the leg or trying to aim at someone's hand or stuff like that. We are not trained to do that. And I believe most officers across the nation, we are trained to shoot center body mass. Yeah. Right. So statistically, your chances of stopping a threat at one shot center mass are at a certain percentage high. Right. Once you shoot twice, which is our standard response, shooting 2 times, it drops it even lower for that person's chance of moving or continuing to do what they're doing is a lot less. Yeah. So I get it. 4 times sounds like a lot. It could be 3, 2, or 1. I feel like either way, no one will be happy with the situation because it could just be one lethal shot to the chest. Yeah. And we'd still be having the same conversation, right? Right. Because there was loss of life. But no, our department, we're not trained to shoot limbs. And because of that, it's very hard to do. Adrenaline's up. Yeah. Your aim to shoot a limb is I would say minimum. Gotcha. So even in that situation, so for I know you guys hear this wonderful little squealing in the background. This is actually Officer Goodbody's daughter. So even she's super cute. Stop making all the noise. No, she's good. I actually like it. It's like mood music for the background. So let's just say, for example, and this is just me getting playing devil's advocate, right? So let's say she grows up and she gets into a teenage fight, as a lot of people do, right? So if an officer came on scene and she was the one with the knife in her hand defending herself, would your opinion about how the officer responded, would that be different? Like if that was your daughter in that situation with a knife defending herself from 2 people jumping her and a police officer came on scene and shot her 4 times, what would your thoughts be? I'd definitely be, as a father, upset, right? Yeah. Because I'd be like, wow, that could have been handled differently. Right. But being that I'm on this side and having knowledge of what officers will do if they're faced with a situation, if I, for whatever reason, she better not be outside with no knife, right? But right. For that same situation, I put my daughter in that same exact situation. I would hope and pray that if she did realize there were cops on scene, right, that means to just stop everything you're doing, because you just don't know. Yeah. Right. I don't know what that cop will do. I don't know if this person right here on scene I'm fighting with is going to do to me, but I had that question thrown at me, if I'm getting jumped and I call the cops, I need help. Yeah. Right. And, the cops show up and they don't know who's the aggressor. Exactly. And I got that question thrown at me and I was kind of stumbled me. I was like, man, you're right. It's kind of tough. But I just think the way that played out, the timing, maybe the cop was 30 seconds later to showing up. Yeah. That would have been a totally different situation. But I definitely understand this question. It is tough, but I feel that, being on this side, I'd still say, after, especially watching the body cam. Yeah. Thankfully, we have body cameras, but that also seems not to be enough sometimes, right? Yeah. The body cam is supposed to, this is proof, this is evidence, and it still seems like the media is like, oh, well, it's still wrong. Yeah. Right? And I don't so much agree with that, because we have video now, and before we didn't. Yeah. Right? We have no idea what was going on before. Right. But now we do. But yeah, that's
But I think even in situations with regard to, like, I'm grateful that I know when body cams were first introduced to a lot of police departments, a lot of police officers were very upset, and I can definitely understand why, because it kind of is a breach of privacy to a degree, and then you have to be on eggshells and have to watch what you say, watch what you do. Yeah. But at the same time, it's a 24-hour integrity checker, right? Absolutely. To make sure that you are doing what you need to do. Because I know even as a healthcare professional, if we were required to wear body cams, trust me, it would expose so much stuff, right? Absolutely. And then even to some family members, like you said, people who don't understand that life, when you're, moving a patient or rolling them, it may look aggressive to their family members, but it's like, no, your parent is 300 pounds. Okay, I'm going to have to move this a certain type of way. Exactly. But even in those situations, like even with the case of Andrew Brown Jr. or Andrew Brown Sr., I'm sorry, in, was it Ohio? I think it was Ohio. Recently, where there was basically like this execution style footage where the police department decided to only show his family 20 seconds of this video. And they literally launched the National Guard and they declared a state of emergency for that particular area before they released the footage. And so it's like when you do things like that, that questions the integrity of every body cam footage, because why are you not releasing the entire thing? Like, obviously, the stuff can be very brutal on there. Absolutely. And it's very explicit, but at the same time, we need to see that too. And it should be traumatic for police officers, other police officers who are seeing this, that this is not what you do with this particular badge. Like, this is how much responsibility you have, and this is how much, accountability you should have in this situation to not edit things or make it seem like it's one thing or another. So I totally get it with regard to the media, that the media does play a big part in it, in perpetuating this vicious cycle of only kind of praising the bad stuff, right? And not giving officers a chance to know that there are good officers. We already know that, but unfortunately, the amount of it happening on a regular basis is just, it's nauseating. You know what I mean? So I think that's the biggest thing that I think a lot of people have issues with. That yes, the media is it's a two-edged sword. It's good and it's bad, because it's good because it's showing us what's actually happening, but then also too, for those good police officers who don't act like that and who don't do stuff like that and who don't agree with things like that, it makes it very difficult for you guys as well.
Kind of to piggyback on that, you were saying as far as the public, the citizens need to see what happened, right? Well, I've seen it across, some states where they have to release, and I've seen some families where they say, hey, can y'all please hold that? Please don't release that. And they now the department is not allowed to hold it. They have to release it. And it's like, well, do we release or do we not? And who do we please at this point? And if we don't let the investigation follow its path, let's say we release the body cam video and then now we need to get a jury. And now everyone saw that. And obviously now the jury may be tainted. So it's one of those things.
Yeah, because I think even too with a lot of the grand jury type situations that occur, because the media is involved in it in the very beginning. Like I said, I think for either way, it's a catch-22 for everybody. It's a catch-22 for us as the citizens knowing what's going on. But then too, let's say an incident happens in January and we're just finding out about it in May, but there were other proceedings that happen. I think that's the transparency that needs to happen, not only with police forces, but also too with grand juries and also too with the justice system at large. So we can't completely blame the police stations for holding footage. Like, there's a whole different process that comes into play that I think a lot of citizens don't understand and don't know about. But that's where the transparency even too comes from the mayors and the governors when situations like this happen. So even like kind of going back to the weapons part, like for Kim Potter, a 26-year veteran on the force, to confuse her taser with her gun, how because even just like when we were talking to Officer Kim Possible, she was telling us about the training and that that is not an easy thing to confuse. Like, obviously, just like you said, when it comes to adrenaline and things like that, it's a very fight or flight response, right? But at the same time, when you see you hear it, she shot and killed this guy, but then when you see the footage, you're like, well, wait a minute, you weren't even the primary officer on the scene. Why did you feel the need to do that? Like, even if he got in his car and drove off, okay, you know where he lives. Like, you chase him on foot or something with a spikes, something. You know what I mean? Yeah. So how easy is it for you as an officer to confuse your taser with your gun?
That is, it's not an easy thing to do. Luckily for me, and this is just the way I wanted to train myself. I kind of have a setup on my belt, which is I call it a gunslinger. My right hand is the only hand that can draw that. And I'm left hand dominant. So,
gotcha.
My left hand is only for my handgun, right? So it's not an easy thing to confuse. That situation, terrible. I don't agree with her at all. She's definitely gonna, go through the justice system in a way that we just saw with Derek Chauvin.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It'll be the same situation. It's not easy, and what I'm thinking happened again to quarterback that. We kind of call it like you just went to a code black area in your mind, where things just went super fast, and you don't even know what happened, and now your body is doing or sympathetically doing things that you don't even know that it's doing,
right?
Just through the years that you've been an officer or through training. But yeah, that's a terrible situation. It's not easy to confuse.
Yeah.
Point blank period, right? It shouldn't have happened.
Absolutely.
Nope.
Yeah. All right, let's just take a quick break and we'll be right back. This episode of The Face Off with Fleming and Fowler is sponsored by myapothecary.com. My Apothecary is the premier online destination for hemp-derived CBD that will help you curate a wealthy lifestyle.
CBD is one of many restorative compounds found in the cannabis plant. Its benefits include decreased pain, improved mood, decreased anxiety, and much more. Some of y'all know that I have crazy ADHD, so I'm heavily medicated at all times, and I've been taking CBD oil at night to kind of calm me down, get me ready for bed. 1010 would recommend.
Worried about regulations? The passing of the 2018 Farm Bill made hemp-derived CBD legal to sell and consume. So yes, CBD is 100% legal and perfect for every person of legal age. My Apothecary's featured line, Broad Bloom, offers broad-spectrum CBD oil drops, sports cream, and soft gels. These products have no THC, so you can stay fly without the high or zen without the spin. Shop now at www.myapothecary.com and sign up for their newsletter to get exclusive offers, product releases, and CBD news.
Remember to always check with your healthcare provider before consuming any supplement. You must be 21 to purchase and consume, and shipping is only available in the US of A.
Don't forget to shop at www.myapothecary.com. And then, so when I say the term, because we asked Officer Kim Possible the same thing, when you hear the term defund the police, what's the first thing that comes to your brain?
So,
and I want you to be as honest as you want to. Like, when you hear defund the police, what's the first thing that comes to your brain?
Yeah, upset, mad, just oh my goodness, it's a. I take it as a slap in the face. Personally, this is just my opinion.
Yeah.
I was there for the riots here in this city, and seeing the posters and all the, F the police, defund the police, and stuff like that. I get now where people, maybe across the nation have a different terminology behind that, right?
Yeah.
For us specifically, defunding, and in my head, either way, I'm like, no, it's still going to take money from us, right?
Yeah.
So specifically for us, what just happened is activists here in this city just put a thing on the ballot, and they wanted to pass it. And basically, it was seen as, oh, this is to make officers more accountable. And if you read the fine print, what they were attacking is not about accountability at all. It had to do with our pay, wages, benefits, and it was going to literally break down, in my opinion, this department, break it down, because other cities, Austin, Portland, etc., where these major things have happened, where they've gone through some type of defunding.
Yeah.
And they're seeing an exodus of officers leaving. And for my department here, that could have meant, had we lost this vote, 600 eligible officers to leave and retire.
Yeah.
And to do that to a force that's barely over 2,000, that's a huge hit to the department. So when I hear defunding, it makes me upset because, if I were able to see some fine print where it says, all right, defunding, this is what we want to do to your department. And if I were to read, we want to go after your arbitration process and how officers are rehired. Yeah. That's fine. Any officer on this department, or most that I know, would agree. That's fine. Yeah. Make sure that process is 100% squared away, and there's no issues with that. But what they wanted to go for was everything else. And they lined it with, it's about accountability. Right. And we knew that that's not what that means through the fine print. And I'm not saying our department is perfect. Every department, there's room for improvement. Right. But because we have such high standards as police officers, you're held to a higher standard. And because this department specifically I work for is always excelling to be one of the best in the country, to hear defunding and also to know that we have citizens that support us, it definitely did hurt.
Yeah.
And it hurt to see that people really didn't understand what that was going to do for us.
Right.
So, I have a family. I'm human. And I like to think that I'm one of the good guys. I'm a good officer. But to throw a blanket on the situation and say, there needs to be accountability and we're going to strip this away from everybody.
Yeah.
Because there could be a bad apple in there, but we don't know, but we're going to throw a blanket on there.
Right.
And I don't think that's the right thing to do either. So, I think people need to do some more homework and yeah.
So I know that when I because I say a lot of times defund the police, and rarely when I say defund the police do I not attach police reform on there, right? And so when people say defund the police, a lot of people are talking about restructuring, right? So, taking funds away from certain things. Like, you have the police departments that are in the United States that are, that are giving grants and giving money for military grade weapons to police, private citizens, which makes no sense. So when I say, me personally, when I say defund, I'm talking about take that money from these weapons and push it on to, okay, now we have to beef up your education or your tactical skills or things of that nature, beef up your training, make you guys go through more CEUs and stuff like that. When I say defund the police, I'm personally not talking about get rid of your pay, because you got a mortgage, you got bills, you have a daughter that you're raising that you have to take care of, right? So, I think it's unfortunate that during this particular time, they kind of use you guys as a scapegoat to then push this other agenda, which people are not talking about. And it's like, if they were to align them, if police departments would align themselves with activists in the city to say, here's what we're actually saying when we say defund the police, then they can help write these bills and write these propositions. So that way they're adequately drawn. So just like, for example, I think her name was Carol something. I can't remember her name, but she made national news where I think back in 2007 or 8, she lost her pension because one of her white police officer, counterparts put a person in an illegal chokehold, and she basically rectified the situation and was like, yo, this is not right. This is not appropriate. They fired her and took her pension away. Wow. And while she was gone, obviously she wasn't making any money, and they fired her, but then she was able to appeal it and come back all these years later and get her $1 million pension. But then when you have situations like with Kim Potter and Derek Chauvin and, the other officer involved in the Ma'Khia Bryant situation, it's like they go on administrative leave and they're still getting paid. To me, I personally feel like if you shoot and kill someone, that should be automatic. Maybe your job is preserved, but your pay, no. Because we got to figure out exactly what's going on. Or there needs to be some type of reduction of something, right? Because I don't understand how you do investigations for years and this person is on administrative leave for a whole entire year. Like, that's not even appropriate in corporate America. You have to file FMLA, and FMLA only covers a certain amount for a certain amount of time, right? And so that's where, I think that's too where taxpayers are like, we should not be wasting our money on situations. And I think too, it will hold officers more accountable to think before they act if that was a part of the situation. Like, if you go on administrative leave for this situation, you will not be paid. And also too, I wanted to ask your opinion about, let's say you got, because a lot of people on social media have been talking about this idea of having police officers licensed to be police officers, right? So the way I'm a physical therapist, like I have to take a board exam, pass that continuing education units, blah, blah, blah. If you had to be licensed as a police officer, and if you make a mistake on the force, killing someone, using an illegal, method of restraint, all that kind of stuff, what are your thoughts on that? But being licensed to be able to be a police officer, and if you mess up, your license is taken away, and now you can no longer be a police officer.
So, obviously we are licensed, right, as police officers, and we go through, obviously, being certified through the state. So, I guess your question is, how do I feel about it being taken away if you mess up? Yeah. So, through our situation or our department, if you do mess up and it's founded that you do, obviously everything about you is stripped, and then you can obviously face criminal or civil liability lawsuits, right? I guess the thing about it is every department, or even through our Constitution, everybody has due process, right? Yeah. So we can't just strip someone of everything before knowing whether or not they're guilty or innocent, right? Yeah. So I guess I may have a biased opinion, right? Because I'm a police officer.
Obviously, yeah.
I would like to continue getting paid.
Right.
And if I feel what I did was justified, and I felt like I did the right thing to, come home at the night, right? And unfortunately, maybe someone else didn't go home at the night, right? It's obviously unfortunate both ways. Yeah. But I've never had to be on administrative leave or duty, thank God, but I've known people that are and are still to this day right now or have lost their job. And their situations, in my opinion, were not as egregious.
Yeah.
And I feel for them because I know those guys have mortgages, kids.
Right.
And to see them completely, dumbfounded, have to go find something else.
Yeah.
It's sad. And those guys, administrative leave for a year. Sometimes I've seen it even go longer or shorter. But
Yeah.
that process right there about how long it takes has nothing to do with whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
It's one of those administrative things, right? The district attorney's office, and there's other powers to be that handle that.
Yeah.
And we have no say in that. So
Right. Because even when you have situations where, like in the Derek Chauvin situation, he had multiple complaints on him from citizens, right? And we know how complaints go. Like even in the healthcare industry, there can be patients who are completely irate, agitated, and everybody that has worked with that patient has the same thing to say about this. This patient is crazy. They need to be on some meds. Like they are just not right. Like we kind of take the complaints with a grain of salt, right? Especially if they're frequent flyers, right? But when it comes to police officer situations where you have police officers who have had multiple complaints on them in situations, and then something big and grandeur happens, it's like, this is why we're saying you should be looking into this stuff, a lot more serious, because little incidences are gonna, occur and then crawl into this big situation, especially with Derek Chauvin in 2017, putting his knee on the neck of a 17-year-old or and hit him in the head with, I think, a flashlight or something, where the young man had to get stitches. And then it's like, how many incidences do these people have to do, and how many complaints do they have to have against them before you wait for something big to come out, and then you have to pay all this money out to the families for lawsuits and all that kind of stuff,
Right. So with that, I had done some research, and I don't even know what is right anymore or what accurate stats I'm looking at, because you pull up so many articles and you see different things. But I remember looking, back when this happened with George Floyd, and I was like, this Chauvin is maybe a 20-year vet, maybe more.
Yeah.
And to look at his number of complaints, to me, in my opinion, were not that much. Not for a 20-year vet to have as many complaints as he did. That is actually not as bad as what people think. If you're a 5-year officer and you've had 100 complaints, that is a lot.
Yeah.
But over the course of 20 years, of course, you're going to deal with situations and have complaints on you. I've had complaints on me.
Yeah.
And where they go unfounded, or it's just somebody that was upset that day. But I get where you got to make more noise for something to happen, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that leading up to George Floyd, that could have, that was the reason. That all could have been prevented if we just dealt with him years before, Derek Chauvin.
Yeah.
But, in his particular situation, I'm hearing two sides of the house, right? Oh, he didn't die from that knee. He died from drugs. Or he did die from that knee and the drugs weren't, And being a police officer, it's like, man, like, I'm hearing both sides, which we're supposed to, right? And I totally don't agree with what Chauvin did. That's my opinion. Other people can say whatever, but I don't agree with what he did. I've never seen an officer do that. I've never done that. And I'm not an expert to see or to say how someone died, right? But I think that it was onset, or it had a contributing factor to him dying, right? So to disprove it, we will never know because he's not here. So,
because I think even just the, with regard to the complaints, even just the egregiousness of the act, because even though he was a 20-year vet, how many, let's say he had 5 complaints over his 20 years, right? But if all 5 of those complaints were him putting his knee on someone's neck and the person saying that they can't breathe, to me, that's more egregious than somebody having 100 different complaints on them of just, oh, well, he was just stopping me, kind of stopping for kind of foolishness, and I was let go, right?
Gotcha.
Like, to me, I would look at that as that's way more egregious, because you're physically putting somebody's life in danger.
Seeing a trend.
Exactly. There's a trend versus 100 people who came and said, well, yeah, this guy just stopped me for no reason. He just wanted to see my ID and then he let me go. Like, he shouldn't keep doing that. Yes, both of them are bad, right? Or both of them shouldn't do that. But I would definitely look at the 20-year vet, because you know better and you've been on the force for longer, and there should be a certain level of maturity in your policing that should cause you not to do that. But because these complaints go unanswered, that's the biggest problem, why they keep perpetuating this vicious cycle of, oh, well, he was a decorated vet. But yeah, you did all of this stuff, or you did three things that were completely egregious that you should not have done, right? So with regard to that, and on your police force, have you ever seen a situation where one of your, police officers, one of your fellow, brothers in blue were unethical in a particular situation that they have done and that you have had to call them out on, either in public or in private?
I haven't seen that. On the department I'm in, and the guys I work with, black, white, Hispanic, I have never seen anything egregious to that level, or anything unethical. Seeing all this stuff around the nation of other police departments, and people have to kind of realize not every police officer is trained up the same way across the board. Yeah. So I'm not saying my training is so much better than a 20-year vet over in Minnesota, but if we go back and let's say, how much is the officer trained? What did he train? How often did he train? We won't know that unless we, pull it out, put it on paper. But to see these things happening, across the nation and with the police departments, and a lot of the things, I would say are preventable. And there's a lot of things that I see that I could also do the same thing. I agree that the officer acted the same way I would have acted. And it's kind of it goes both ways. Yeah. I just feel like the media right now is just only putting out one side, and police officers aren't really being heard, and especially police officers of color. Yeah. For us to be on this side, I wake up every day black, and I've also heard some terms that some of my friends have used is, we're too black to be blue, too blue to be black. I've heard that, and that kind of like stumbled me because I'm like, man, like, if I say something on this side of the house, am I looked at a certain way? Does my opinion matter? Yeah. Or is it just because I'm black? Right. Or is it because I'm just a police officer? Or even to the community that I police, if I don't agree with something they did and they're black, well, it's because you're a cop. It's like, well, I'm a cop and I'm black. Or, if they say, it's because I'm black, you're doing this. I'm like, I'm black, man. Like, I'm just doing my job. Right. So, yeah.
So what do you think? Okay, so when it comes to the term of blue lives matter, blue lives matter, do you feel like blue lives matter, or do you even agree with the term blue life?
So I guess in hindsight, right? For blue lives, I'm a part of obviously the police force and a family of people that have police officers and loved ones. And it's hard for me to say because it's like, I don't want to put myself in an organization, right? I don't want to, I'm just here because I believe in our purpose as police officers. Yeah. So when I hear the term blue lives matter, I honestly feel like it's one of those to go against BLM or white lives matter. Yeah. So, and we don't need to do that. As police officers, we obviously have a huge family, a huge support system. And I think that's just people coming out to support police officers. Yeah. And I think it just gets misconstrued as blue lives matter and your life doesn't matter. Right. And it's one of or all lives matter. And I feel like everyone's trying to debunk each other. Yeah. And it shouldn't have ever been that way. So the same kind of persona that blue lives matter is getting is probably the same that black lives matters gets, and et cetera. So I don't want to put myself in a certain category. Yeah. But obviously, because I'm a police officer, I do, love and support my brothers and sisters. Right. And because I'm black, I obviously do support the black community. So, I'm all over the board here. Yeah. And I hate to put myself in just one box.
Yeah, because I kind of hate when people do say blue lives matter, because I'm like, blue life doesn't exist. There's no such thing as blue lives. Like,
I've heard that as well.
I'm sitting in your house, you got on a t-shirt and some shorts. Like, I don't know that you're a police officer unless you put that uniform on, you put that badge on, and you walk out representing the city of San Antonio, right? Versus you go to the HEB just like what you're wearing. No one knows you're a police officer. Everyone sees you as a black man. And that's why I feel like, I do agree with you that when it comes to the blue lives matter and the all lives matter, it's just people trying to debunk this issue of that there is a real issue in the United States with devaluing black lives and basically having a field day with murdering them, right? And people try to, use this racist trope of, oh, black on black crime. There's no such thing as black on black crime. There's no such thing. So would you say that the Capitol riots on January 6th was white on white crime? There's no such thing as black on black crime. You will kill who you mostly live by. So Ray and Dante, guess what? They're going to kill each other because they live by each other, right? So I think that's, one of the biggest, kind of issues that we have when it comes to, the whole Blue Lives Matter situation. So even speaking on that and you being kind of caught in the middle of both worlds, have you ever been asked to police your own people? Like if there's a situation where, let's say, you guys come up on a gang or whatever and it's African Americans and you have mostly white or Hispanic police officers. Have you ever been in a situation where they're just like, hey, Officer Goodbody, we want you to, obviously they won't call you that, right. But have you ever been in a situation where they're just like, hey man, we prefer for you to handle this or you take the lead because these are your people and they may respond to you a little bit better?
So I feel like fortunately the officers I've been around have been well versed and they can handle any situation.
Yeah.
Do I feel more comfortable dealing with the black community? Yes, absolutely. I'll step up.
Yeah.
If I see that I can relate better, I'll step up. And and there's times where it doesn't work. I'll get shut down. Yeah. By black, and I'm like, oh well, dang.
Thought we was connected.
And yeah, exactly. And I'll assume that, but it doesn't happen every time like that because again, they just see the badge and the uniform. They don't see another brother, or a brother officer or anything like that. But there's times where I kind of sense like, all right, I should take the lead.
Yeah.
And I'll do it, and it's no big deal because for the same situations. White or Hispanic, if I don't speak Spanish, I'm going to look towards my Hispanic brother that speaks Spanish. Yeah. Just naturally.
Absolutely.
And obviously they'll feel more comfortable speaking to somebody that speaks Spanish. So
right.
I know a lot of this stuff goes around, race and how we're dealing with different people. But again, that small county across the world, I don't know, what that officer's been through, what they've been exposed to culturally. And do they really know how Hispanics or blacks act or their tendencies just culturally?
Yeah.
Will they perceive that as threats? If they were more exposed to it growing up like I was, then I have the advantage, right?
Right.
But,
so do you all have like a cultural competence training, or is that kind of like in the very beginning when you're a cadet?
Yeah.
Or is it continuing?
It's continuing.
Gotcha.
And it's one of those things, and I feel like it's on the job training every single day.
Yeah.
Multiculturalism, we all have to take that class across the board.
Right.
Any other state. But yeah, those are definitely in training because this is what we deal with every day.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this question: have you ever been like not in uniform, and let's say you're traveling somewhere or you're just roaming around or any other place? Have you ever been pulled over when you were a police officer, but they didn't realize that you were a police officer?
Oh yeah. I've been stopped several times outside of this state, traveling in uniform, out of uniform. Yeah, plenty of times, and right away, they don't know, right, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because up front, I'm seeing these things. There are traffic stops across the board with black people. You're hearing things like, well, if you just complied, it would have been fine, right? So for me, I always comply, right? Because I'm a cop.
Right.
And I can't say all cops comply, right? Because there's probably some that get mad when they get pulled over, right? Because they're human.
Yeah.
And I've been pulled over and gotten mad too.
Yeah.
Right? But it never became a case where I felt like I was being, I guess, profiled or something like that. I just show my, ID credentials and I'm on my way. Yeah. Right. And that's that.
Well, see, that's what I think too. Like, even there's this sense of like brotherhood that's there. That even if you're committing a crime, let's say speeding, right? Because that's going against the law, and you shouldn't even have to show your credentials that you are a police officer for you
That's
not
correct.
to be pulled over or for the situation to be handled very differently. Because like you said, a police officer, let's say you're going through, some kind of sundown town, hick town, whatever, right? Because we got a lot of those. Like you'll end up everywhere or anywhere rather. And so, this police officer walks up to you and like, license and registration, and you're just like,
Whoa.
hello, okay, good afternoon, sir. How are you? And then you hand them this credential and all of a sudden they calm down. But if you never handed them that credential, or even like, our veterans that are in the city. And so sometimes there is this kind of, kind of unspoken thing with even veterans, like, hey, you're a veteran, I'm gonna let you off, or whatever the case. Right. Yeah, you cut them a break. Exactly. So it's like, what, you shouldn't even have to show your credentials, even you as a police officer, and this is how these people deal with you or deal with other citizens. So if they calm down for you, imagine them not calming down for a person who's not a police officer. So I think that's kind of the unfortunate part that kind of happens from time to time. But you said you've never had an aggressive situation though?
No, I've sensed some tension.
Yeah.
But and there's been times where I didn't pull my credentials. I just did my driver's license.
Yeah.
And it started to go a certain way, and I'm like, hey man, here's my badge.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And I've been in both situations, right?
Yeah.
I've stopped police officers, and it's a sense, obviously, like you said, you're cutting each other a break. I understand your job. I know what you're going through.
Yeah.
Some type thing. And even in the medical field,
yeah,
I've stopped people in scrubs wearing stuff, and I'm like, oh,
listen, I'll be quick to put my badge on. Oh, yes, sir, I'm going to the hospital.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a doctor, and they never ask what kind of doctor I am, so I do like that.
If it works,
so I can get. I'm trying to tell you seriously, but yeah, I think it's even on the medical side too. We have certain physicians that, because we work with them, we know how they are, and to the lay person, they may appear very rude or an asshole or something like that, but we're just like, no, that's just how they are, and blah, blah, blah. So I think also too, that trickles in every area, every sector of, just corporate America, even on the police force, fire departments, everywhere, where, even if you have a particular guy who's on the force who's a little bit more, rough around the edges, and you're like, oh, that's just John. He just, he just does that. And it's like, yeah, but John needs to step up, especially when it comes to perpetuating this vicious appearance or a cycle of the good cops appearing horrible too, like people bunching y'all into the bad apples. And I think it's unfortunate, because anybody who's in a badge or anybody who has a badge or anybody that's in uniform, we're going to automatically feel a certain type of way no matter what your color is, because of, again, these things that we are seeing that are happening in the media, that we have to lump you all together, because sometimes a lot of times police officers will lump in people of color as well too. Oh, all of y'all are lazy, all of y'all are thugs, and so it's just like, well, all of y'all are bad cops, even though we know that that's not true. But I think, and subconsciously in your mind, you can't help but to think that.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So yeah, do you feel that there's, and I asked Officer Kim Possible the same thing, is there anything that Black Americans can actually do to ensure that they can make it home safely when encountering a police officer during a traffic stop? Because it seems like you said, even when, Black Americans comply or people of color comply, that they're still shot down in their cars and things of that nature. We could even see that with, Philando Castile, where the police officer asked him for his license and registration. He reached for it with permission, and he still got shot and killed. So is there anything that we can actually do from your take to even get home safely, just like you like to get home safely?
That's a very complex question, and I don't want to overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
I think I know where you're going with it. There are millions of traffic stops being conducted as we speak right now, and no one would ever know that those were peaceful. Nothing happened, and that person went about their day, didn't get tickets or anything.
Yeah.
Again, I feel like it's one of those things where you have a small percentage of stops that go this way, and I feel people think that this happens a whole lot more than they think. In my perspective, I don't feel like it happens that often. With Philando Castile, I just watched that video the other day, and I think that might have been pre-body cam. I'm not too sure, but watching that situation is one of those things that, again, the officer went code black.
Yeah.
And I do believe Philando said, I have a firearm in the car, and the officer said okay, and then I think, or what I watched, he started to reach for his ID, right, is what we're gonna say, or that's just what's perceived in the video. It's one of those things where maybe take a step back. If you're Black, I'm Black, I wake up Black every day, like I said. I feel like there's just a huge distrust between each other.
Yeah.
And I can't specifically say Black Americans need to do this to get home every day. And I've seen this in movies, and I'm like, what is going on with this? Why are we, I guess, educating people to feel like we as Black people need to do something totally different than everyone else?
Yeah.
And I get it where,
that's a good point.
I get it where, people are like, well, look, this guy complied and he still died. And in my head, I'm like, I've been stopped. I haven't been killed, right? Thank God. But I feel like, and I can't say that for everyone else, right? It's just a broad statement, but I feel like if we're going to say this or give this question to people, then it needs to be across the board. And I've kind of put this to my partners and said, we should be teaching this in high school. It should be a class in high school.
Yeah. What
to do on a traffic stop. And it doesn't just say for black people, you need to do this, you know, it needs to be across the board.
Yeah.
Across every state. Keep your hands on the steering wheel.
Yeah.
Don't do anything until they come up. And I've had people put their hands out the window, throw the keys out the window, all types of crazy, you know, all types of things.
Yeah.
And it looks like a party in the car because everybody don't throw their hands up and it's roller coaster.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And I'm even like, oh, all right. And they're like, I ain't doing nothing. And I'm like, okay, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I'm cool. Yeah. And I don't mind that. And some people genuinely look scared. And some people, you know, they kind of just want to go with the flow of the media and just kind of play around and have their camera out. And it's like, I don't mind you if you record this whole traffic stop. Because as personally, I'm a cool guy.
Yeah.
Record me. I'm cool with that. But if we have to get out of the car, that's totally different.
Yeah.
And that's just tactics perspective. But I feel like that question is so broad.
It's such a loaded question. Of course.
It's tough. It's just
I asked that on purpose.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad question.
Yeah.
Because I've thought about it, and that's, you know, I've kind of asked some buddies of mine, I'm like, hey, look at this question. Like, what do you think? Like, it's very complex. It's loaded.
Yeah.
And I get the side where it's like, well, we've done all these and it hadn't worked. And I've seen officers put out training videos and on what to do. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. Somebody's taking the step to dumb it down.
Yeah.
Because maybe not everyone knows what to do. Obviously, when you get stopped by a cop, you feel apprehensive.
Yeah.
Or you feel mad. What you stopped me for?
Right.
I've had those stops where I ain't even made it to the window. I ain't even said one word. What you stopping me for? I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me mad, right? And I'm like, man, it's the same thing in your field, right? If somebody to question you what you're doing, because
I'm not paying for physical therapy.
You know,
it's
you're
like,
the expert.
It's like we come with the eggs, buddy. Like I'm just here to do my job.
I'm just like, no, we're just trying to do our job, and I know you can understand the same situation. But specifically, to dumb it down, right? For people to make it home, I would just say, you know, a cop stops you, don't reach around, right? And it's just an educational standpoint. Cop stops you, don't reach, don't go for an ID or insurance, because from my perspective, I work in the dark.
Yeah.
And if I see your head go from one side of the car to the other, I'm thinking stuff.
Yeah.
Even if you're just being compliant, or I don't even know that you're being cool. You could be, or you could not be. But if I see your head go from one side of the car to the other, and you keep, you know, reaching around, and you're trying to drive at the same time, it's like one thing at a time.
Right.
Stop the car immediately. Put your hands on the steering wheel. Don't move, and that's it. I like to do is put all my windows down. Yeah. And because I work in the dark, I appreciate when people do that. And even during the day, you know, just put all the windows down and just don't do anything.
But see, then I think with regard to that, even putting windows down, I think that can be very controversial because, you know, then you have these videos where you see police officers planting stuff and throwing stuff in your window. You're just like, oh, you're planting weed. Oh, you got weed. Get out of the car. And you're just like, oh my God. So it's like, and even when you see some of these videos where people are like recording and they have the window kind of like halfway cracked and you're just like, can you just roll down? You were like, no, you can hear me from here. And I think a lot of times it's like, I feel like civilians try to have one up on police officers, some civilians, right? But then when they do that, it pisses off the cop, and instead of the cop de-escalating it, they make it worse because ego comes into this play like, listen, I'm just trying to get home and do my job. You're speeding, you know you're speeding. Let's not go through this crap. But then you have these officers, unfortunately, especially some of these white officers that you see, and they just come already with their hand. Like, why do you walk up with your hand on your gun? But then I also saw this one video where the police officer was explaining how his belt is. And he was like, listen, there isn't a lot of room for me to put my hands anywhere. So sometimes when you see me resting my hand on my gun or my taser, it's not because I'm trying to pull it. It's literally, I don't have anywhere to put my hands. Like I can't put my hands in my pocket because it's going to be awkward because this is sticking out or that's sticking out. So I think even too, like, you know, I was stopped one time and because I have an open carry license, I knew that from my class, the guy was like, listen, you know, if you get stopped for any reason, you need to give them a copy of your license and your open carry license. So that way they know that you're a registered gun owner, because if they run your name and then come back and see that you own guns, they may automatically assume you have one in your car. Right. But unfortunately, because I'm black, I don't have the luxury to drive around with a firearm in my car. I just personally don't do that, even though I am licensed to carry. But I think that's kind of the biggest thing, that even if you say that, like, roll all the windows down and it helps you from the civilian standpoint, it's like, well, no, now you got a chance to throw something in my car and plant something on me. You know what I mean?
I got you. And I'm like, man, for that to happen, that dash cam is definitely catching that.
Yeah.
And that body cam is definitely catching that. And I get where the distrust in cameras, right? Editing stuff. But I've never seen that. That's a rare situation. I kind of want to go back to walking up with your hand on your gun. For me, and, you know, I've had to train some guys under me. I preach that. Hand on your gun when you go up. You just don't know. Right? You just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know that person up there. You don't know what they have in their car. So for me, working in the dark, my hand is always on my gun. It's not I'm scared. It's not I'm nervous. I'm trigger happy. It's just if you're going to come out doing something to me, I need to be ready. And I hate to be that guy where, you know, I end up on the news or at my funeral. He got out of his car. You know, or my girlfriend. I wish he would have had his hand on his gun, because at half a second he would have had that jump. And just from a safety and tactics perspective, hand on the gun, go up. I've had my gun out walking up to cars because I thought something sketchy was going on. And I've had to holster it. No big deal. The gun can come out and go back in just as easy. And I feel like at times, you know, like you said, some officers come up and their hands on their gun. It's very abrasive. And I can't speak for other officers, but it's just, you don't know what type of officer you'll get during the day. You might get cool officer Goodbody, right? Or you might get disgruntled 20, 30 years on. And
you got hemorrhoids and like, I'm just trying to get home to put my tux in my butt.
It's just that, you know, we're human at the end of the day. I may have had a bad day, you know, and I feel like we just need to get back to humanizing the badge and just remember, you know, that cops have families and they're human. And civilians, I don't know if I'm stopping the guy that just murdered his wife or just beat up his girl or you know, or he's on his last day, he feeling suicidal. And I just don't know that. So I'm like, man, like, what are we getting into? And obviously we say there's no traffic stops that's routine. That is so true. I can't tell you how many stops I've done, and my job right now is about 98% traffic stops. So I'm putting myself in risk of something happening. But I feel like personally, in order to, I guess, suspend crime or delay, traffic stops are necessary. And I know I saw one of those questions that you did with Kim Possible about the air freshener. And that's one of those I was grunting about. I was like, oh, what? And I was like, you know, different perspective, right? Me here, and what I do on the gang unit, if that's what I'm going to use to stop you because I'm looking for something specific, I'll use it. But I feel like people need to remember that cops didn't write this in the legislation. Right? We didn't put this in writing. We are told to enforce that. So yes, we have the discretion to use what we want, but I feel like people are mad at more so the system, and obviously the cops are a part of the system, right? But I feel like, oh, you stopped me because my license plate's dirty. You know, and I'm like, as minuscule as that may seem, right? That's dumb. And I'm like, yeah, but it's the same traffic infraction level, misdemeanor as your light being out. And I feel like people don't understand that, right? And people, I'm not doing anything wrong, and I'm like, that's fine, you know. But I don't know. I feel now the shift of that old school policing, of that abrasiveness, right? That older generation is obviously being slowly phased out. It's just the way they've done their job. And I came on at a later time, obviously, right? In 2016. So I'm a little bit more millennial, modern day and age. And I'm able to talk and de-escalate a little bit better and understand the situation that we're in. But I can't say that for the officer across the nation. You know? And I'm not saying those officers are wrong. You will always resort to your training and the way you've done things.
Gotcha. So what is the one thing that you would like for just regular everyday citizens to know about just police officers in general?
Oh, that's a good question.
Or it doesn't have to be one thing. It can be multiple things. But what are some things that you feel like you really want people to understand about what it is you do?
I guess first and foremost, I guess I want people to realize that, I guess you can't pick and choose which situations you want to be in with as a police officer.
Yeah.
You're just thrown in there. You're the expert. You have to be the therapist, the doctor at times, the counselor. You have a hat of many, a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
And there are situations where, I've seen where people think dealing with mental health, we should have a professional mental health come and deal with that instead of a cop. And I know that kind of goes into the defunding, and we should have civil service people do that, not cops. And in some points, I agree with that. And other points, I don't. I feel people don't realize the type of things we have to do and what we have to analyze. So I guess I'd want people to know that this job has so many different aspects. And on top of all that, we have to worry about life and death.
Yeah.
And that's of me and of you and, anyone else around.
Yeah.
It's just such a tough job to have, even before all this. I guess so even more now, it's just a little bit more dangerous, obviously. But also, I'd want people to know that, I guess, and I want to speak to the Black community, right?
Yeah.
I'd want people to know that there's not enough minorities as police officers, especially where I live now. I wish I'd seen more. I maybe had 2 Black people in my class, and I see that in every class.
Yeah.
And that's just because of demographics, right? It's where I live, and maybe not in Houston or Dallas. May have more of a Black police force. But even if you do have people of color represent your community, you're still going to have these situations happen.
Yeah.
And they won't be put out there by the media. There's definitely Black officers shooting a Black suspect, and vice versa, or Hispanics, and it happens a whole lot more than anyone will ever know.
Yeah.
And I guess being in these shoes on this side, I wish people would just get a little bit more educated on what police officers do, go for a ride along, and learn more about this side of the house, because there's so much more than just your cop on the street giving tickets. We're a part of a huge system, and if people don't agree with laws and the way things are going, go after your city council.
Yeah.
Go after those big heads, big wigs that make the big money, right? Because none of us in this job signed up to make 6 figures, right? And none of us are from 7 figures. Not like that, right? This is a thankless job, and a lot of sacrifice. I see officers day in, day out that have died on the news and leave behind a family and kids, and I feel like people just don't realize that these are humans policing humans. There will always be human error.
Yeah.
Right. And that's about it. Sure.
Yeah. And I think too, we said on the last episode where, policing is a very uncontrolled environment, right?
Absolutely.
Like, so for us in the medical field, things can go crazy real quick, real fast, but at the same time, it's still very much controlled,
right?
Because it's not life or death with us. It's it's life with us and potentially death for the patient, right?
Yeah.
And with you guys, like you said, I cannot imagine being, a law enforcement officer. I probably wouldn't last on the force because I'd be locking up everybody. Oh, you want to get an attitude? Jail, motherfucker. Jail. You going straight to jail. But
tickets, every ticket.
To everybody getting tickets. Like, first of all, I'm not going to run behind nobody. I'm going to tell you that. I don't care how fit I am. I'm not running behind you. So if you lost them, Fleming, I sure did, because I'm not running behind nobody. It's too hot. I don't like to sweat. But I definitely think that it is very difficult being a police officer, and more so, especially being an African-American police officer, because one of my last questions to you is, how do you protect your mental health with going through what you go through on a daily basis, seeing what you go see on a daily basis, because it's not what the average American sees, right? But then also too, going to work in these dangerous situations, knowing that, you have a spouse and a daughter at home that are waiting on you.
Right.
And also to the obligation that you have to the badge, but then also to the loyalty that you have to your own community. Like, how do you basically just process your mental health, or how do you take care of your mental health with all of those things?
Oh, it's tough. I feel like, there's some, me personally, I just talk it out. I was told by some senior officers, you just have to talk about what you go through. Just last night, saw someone pass away.
Yeah.
Right? And no one would ever know that. And you just kind of, internalize it,
Yeah.
right? And then you may verbalize it later and express it. Sometimes you don't, but I think having family, friends, non-cop friends especially, and being out, getting out, and not even dealing with this world that we deal with is good for the mental health. On top of that, I remember Kim Possible was talking about resources that we have.
Yeah.
I can't say that I've ever used it, and that's on me to use it.
Yeah.
And officers aren't forced to use it. It's there as a resource, and unfortunately, some officers, do take their lives, and especially military, take their lives after dealing with so much. Fortunately, I haven't been that guy that just broke up with my chick, left me for everything, child support, and I'm carrying a gun on my waist, right? What's stopping me from pulling that on myself, right? So, I feel like for me, it's just having people around me. The support that I've had is great, from my girlfriend's family, my family, and just being able to talk it out. I probably talk too much about it, and it gets annoying because
I don't think there's a such thing as talking about it too much.
I try not to because people that aren't cops, it's like, oh, here we go, the same guys coming around talking about cop stuff, and it's our way of venting. And it's not to say, oh, I'm cool, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's just venting. I think that's healthy to do.
Yeah, definitely. Because I even think too, like even going back to what you said about former veterans in the armed forces and them coming on the force as police officers. Have you seen, or have you even read in like some of your research where veterans from the military are policing more aggressively once they get on the force, because obviously the rules of engagement are very different when you're in the military and then when you're in combat, and civilians have no rights, right? Where you're going in some of these areas versus then when you come here or come back to the States and it's like, oh, no, we have rights. There's a certain decorum that happens. There's a different levels of engagement. So have you ever seen that where, police officers who were veterans before now are policing very different than what the average police officer polices?
Yeah, I would say that those guys come from, I don't want to say a lot more training, but their uncontrolled environment that they deal with, or the stuff that they've seen maybe overseas, and they come, and it's just kind of that trend, right? If you're a military, a cop is perfect where you fit. And I've seen it sometimes where those veterans are actually better at talking to people because they have had more time than I've ever had coming out of college and dealing with people.
Gotcha.
And there are times where you may have that guy that's like super, been in the military forever, and he enforces law aggressively. But I haven't personally seen it, but I would say that the veterans I do know that have come from military have a lot more, I guess, life experience. They've traveled, they've dealt with different cultures of diversity, and they may talk to people better than I do.
Gotcha. All right. Well, anything else you want to tell our listeners about law enforcement or police officers or?
That's it. Man, I can't stress enough to do a ride along. I can't stress enough.
How easy is it to do a ride along in your particular city?
It's,
well, every city is obviously different. How easy is it to request a ride along?
It's very easy. COVID, kind of messed things up. But I feel like we're kind of coming out of that now. So it's very easy. It's your local substation, whatever substation you want to go to. It's a call away.
Okay.
And I've had several people do ride-alongs with me and my best friends. I've had recruits, interns, and to see them in a bad uniform, is inspiring to me. And it's not that I did anything special to that individual, but I guess just the way I handled myself. That they saw, man, I can see myself doing this job. So one of the guys that I would say recruited, he ended up becoming one of us maybe last year, and I was like, wow, man, that's awesome. And he's a black officer, so I was like, man, that's great. I just wish that would happen a whole lot faster and a whole lot more. But I feel like it would open people's eyes to see a whole lot of things in different perspectives versus what you get in the media. Because if you want to know the truth, I feel like come out to the street and see.
Because it humanizes the badge, like you said.
So I mean, you see the TV, all right, that's one perspective. But if you come out to the street, you're gonna see something different. So.
Gotcha.
That's about it, though. I appreciate you having me. This is different.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for agreeing to come on our podcast. We definitely do appreciate you. Yeah. And like I said, all the little squeals that you've heard in the back, it's just his beautiful daughter. I'm
sorry.
She's
Lord,
no, you're perfectly fine. As I said, she's just background noise. She's so cute. But yeah, so thank you so much for coming on our show and speaking to us. Yep. Definitely too, if you guys have any comments or questions for Officer Goodbody, he is not single for our lusting people. His spouse will definitely beat your behind, so do not even ask in the comments.
Where's she at? Right, exactly. She ain't listening to this.
So if y'all have any questions or comments or anything like that, please leave your comments down below. You can definitely DM us on Instagram. You can message us on Facebook as well too. So thank you so very much, Officer Goodbody, for being a part of this and answering many of our questions. We definitely appreciate it. Alrighty. Next subject.
Let's give them something to talk about.
All right, what's going on in social media?
Okay, Macaulay Culkin. Know him?
Of course, Home Alone.
Home Alone. Brenda Song. Know her?
No.
Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, the Asian girl.
No.
Okay.
I just
Wendy Wu, Homecoming Warrior.
No.
The Warrior. Okay.
Never saw it.
Easy A.
Never
the random
saw
girl
it.
who's like, did you hear about? Okay.
Never saw it.
She's this Asian actress who's in like, oh no, that wasn't Brenda Song in Easy A.
All Asians don't look alike. What's up?
She's not even Asian. The girl from that is from Lizzie McGuire. Wow. I just lumped together a bunch of Disney has-beens. Anyway.
Disney has-beens.
Okay. Her and Macaulay Culkin have been dating forever. They just had a baby, is what I was trying to say.
Macaulay Culkin straight?
Yeah, I guess.
That's
straight enough to impregnate someone.
Okay, no, this is a real question. Was he not gay at one point? No?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. All right. Well.
Congratulations,
Macaulay Culkin. I really thought he was gay. I really did.
Because you know who he was dating for a long time was Mila Kunis.
Mila from Ashton Kutcher's wife?
Yeah.
No way.
She started dating Ashton Kutcher because she had just broken up with Macaulay Culkin and was going through this hoe phase, and saw him and was like, oh no, that's blah, blah, blah. And then they started hooking up and she was like, oh shit, I like him. I don't think he was the Macaulay rebound, but
that's a weird combination.
Yeah, he must. I don't know what fucking shit he's spitting.
He must got the magic stick.
He can hit once, he can hit twice. I got the baddest chick.
I don't know that I want to think about Macaulay Culkin's penis.
He'll show you magic. What?
Listen, he got a baby. Congratulations to y'all. Yeah. Awesome.
Today is Vanessa and Kobe Bryant's 20th wedding anniversary.
Happy anniversary to them. That's awesome. Would have been their 20th.
Would have been their 20th.
It's
sad. A heavenly anniversary.
Yeah, do you think she'll ever remarry?
How? You know what I mean? She would have to marry someone normal. Like, you can't.
I don't think the fans would let her marry anybody else.
They wouldn't. They'll make it super hard. And then, like, it would have to be someone so secure. How do you measure up being Kobe Bryant's widowed wife's new husband?
You have to have money.
True, but, like, Kobe is it's like Michael Jordan, right? Like, Jordan is the reference. Mm-hmm. It's like Kobe. It's a Kobe move. Yeah. Kobe everything. Even Kobe beef, superior beef.
I don't know what Kobe beef is, but okay.
It's really good beef.
Oh, good.
So I don't know, but I feel like she's happier on social media. Not that social media is an accurate depiction of someone's true day-to-day life.
Yeah.
But
I think she has a really good, what it appears to be is that she has a really good support system, especially from her friends. And the fact that she does have kids. I think it'd be different if she was widowed with no children.
Chadwick Boseman's widow. That's fucked up.
Because isn't she pregnant?
Is she pregnant?
I don't know. I think was she pregnant? I don't know.
Was she, remember we were talking, I feel like we were talking about, is it better to be widowed alone or with child?
I think it's better to be widowed with children because at least you have a piece of them still here. And I think the fact that she now has 3 daughters that still remain, and with the youngest one still being, a toddler who can't talk yet. I definitely think that maybe it's a bit easier because you're not as lonely. Like, you could still be lonely with kids, obviously, but at least you have something to preoccupy your time with, right?
Yeah. I guess, yeah. Well, I don't know if she's pregnant. That would be nice.
That would have been awesome if she would have. Yeah, a little T'Challa running around.
James Charles has been dropped by Morphe. That was his big supporter. Yeah. Because
for the people who don't know who James Charles is.
James Charles is a makeup YouTuber. That's all you need to know. He's that kid that's always wearing a shit ton of makeup.
But don't confuse him with Jeffree Star. He's not Jeffree Star.
He's not Jeffree Star. He's under the age of 25. He's young, dark hair.
White guy. So what did he actually do? What was he dropped?
All these rumors came out. Rumors. I should say they weren't rumors.
They're
Allegations. Alleged allegations. As we know, allegations are all alleged.
Yes.
But supposedly he was sending inappropriate messages to all these young boys, like 16-year-old boys, low-key grooming them, sending them very inappropriate things, and they all came out, a bunch of them, and they all had very similar stories.
Wow.
So he's now canceled.
But you can't do anything about the Catholic Church.
But we do not fuck with mild pedophilia.
Oh, so just hard on pedophilia is okay.
Yes.
You can't be closeted. You got to be all the way out.
Truly.
Gotcha. Julie noted.
The first bachelor to come out as being gay has come out as being gay, Colton.
I saw that.
We're
and that it was
very
kind of
excited.
predicted. That it was predicted by some
Yes.
journalist or something.
He had an interview and they were like, what if you turned out to be the first gay bachelor? So he must have been given signs and signals.
Wow.
But that is the most heteronormative show and like the most shoved down your face heterosexuality.
Yeah, it is.
Macho man bullshit.
Yeah. And especially for it to be ABC, you would think it wouldn't be, but
I'm thinking The Bachelor was his Hail Mary.
yeah, probably.
He was just like, I want to be straight. Let me go on a show where girls are throwing them fucking selves at me.
But see, that's the thing that pisses me off about like live in your truth. I know it's scary too, but don't waste somebody's time and life being married to them and then you 20 years later, I'm gay or I'm bisexual. Like you take people's choices away. Don't do shit like that.
Do we? I honestly think too. Like, do we think this is like for clickbait, for clout?
No, he looks gay.
I don't want to say that.
Is that not politically correct to say?
I don't think it is anymore to say that.
Oh well, he gave off my gaydar went off.
He's gay vibes.
Yeah, my gaydar definitely
He is a
went off with him.
well-groomed man.
Yeah.
Very sensitive, and he was always showering on
Like
his
beyond
season.
metrosexual. Like,
Someone confirm
very
or
much so.
deny, but I can guarantee his season was the one where they would always show him showering.
Let me ask you this question: would you be willing to date a bisexual man?
Would you, in a train? Okay.
Would I
be willing?
Would you
Are they
date or marry a bisexual man? Since you're attracted to men, right?
true? False.
Okay.
True. False. True.
So
Do
you're
you
bisexual?
remember?
Oh, you're coming out. Oh my God! Congratulations.
I wish I was that exciting. Do you remember the season of Insecure when Molly found that guy and he said that he had been with men before and he
Yes.
was like perfect for her and then she shut that shit down?
Yes, I am Molly.
Yeah, I would. Here's the thing. I'd like to be in the camp where I think that I could be like, that's fine if it was in the past.
No,
I don't know. It's like you don't know what you do in that situation until you're in that situation.
I absolutely know what I would do. No.
I like to think of myself as a very accepting person.
There are some things, but see, that's not accepting. There's just certain things I am not willing to tolerate. Like
Bisexuality.
No. I'm saying like dating a man who has been with men, because then there's the potential for you to still like in the moment. Yes, now you're attracted to women, not necessarily attracted, but you want to be with a woman. But then who's to say that later on down the line you're like, I'm sick of coochie.
But what if he was in a threesome with a woman and a man?
Absolutely. I mean, as long as you're not.
No penetration, but maybe dick in his mouth.
No,
that's it for you. That's the hard stop.
any sexual contact with
Stick in the
with
mouth.
a man is a no.
Okay, what if no dick in the mouth, no penetration, but he kissed a guy?
No,
during his threesome.
because you're gonna want more. Your G spot is in your ass. No,
That is true.
That's
that
a
is
hard
that
stop.
is a valid statement that you have made.
That's
yes.
a hard stop.
I don't know. I really want to be like, it doesn't matter to me as long as he loves me. Blah, blah, blah.
I think it's easier for like women to be bisexual than it is for men. And I think obviously there's a social, stigma that comes with it. Like if a girl says, "Oh yeah, I've dated girls before," like it's perfectly fine. Men are just like, "Oh, okay, well fuck that shit, let's go, it's fine," But then if you're a man, oh hell
But
no.
isn't that a double standard?
Oh, it's definitely a double standard.
But
Absolutely.
it's a double standard you abide by.
Absolutely, through and through. I'm not ashamed of it.
I think I would say
It would be
it's
very
fine,
difficult
and then
for me
I
to do
wouldn't
that.
get over it. It would be hard to
Because I'd be
over.
thinking all the time that I just I know me, and my mind wanders if I don't have definitive answers. Excuse me. And so I would constantly be thinking, if we're out and about, you looking at that man booty. I would literally be thinking that the whole entire time. Like I couldn't let it go.
I think to me personally, I don't think men with men are attractive to me personally.
Yeah.
And I would have that playing in my head. And I think that would make them less attractive to me personally.
Yes, I agree.
Just like if you were very against someone sucking toes and you saw your boyfriend in a previous relationship sucking someone's toes.
You must have never had your toes sucked.
This was an example.
Oh, okay,
I just wanted to baseline.
Didn't
But
wanna put
thank
my business out
you.
there.
Thank
I'm
you
just saying.
for.
I wasn't putting my business out there. Anyway.
I'm just saying something random because I don't want to. Okay.
Sniffing draws. Yeah.
Sure. I was going to say picking your nose, but I was like, I feel like people think their nose. If you saw your partner doing something that like fucking dropping food on the floor and then eating it, and you were like, that is a hard fucking no for me.
Yo.
And they did it with the person before you, or they like baby birded them, like chewed their food and spit it in their girlfriend's mouth.
Yeah, or if you like try to pop a zit on me or something like that.
Yeah, and
that's
then you're
gross.
like, if I saw you doing that, it would be so fucking unattractive to me.
That's a complete turn off.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like that. Like I would see them with a man in my head, and I don't know if I'd be able to get over that.
Yeah, I agree. Because I'm gonna just look at you as you've been tooted and booted. Tooted and booted. Tooted and booted. Tooted and booted. Tooted and booted.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
We are working in the wrong industry. We need to be in the jingle
First of all,
industry.
did you see my half leg twerk?
I
Because my
did.
hamstrings are so tight.
I was like, okay, Meg.
We're in the wrong industry. I haven't heard Tootin' Boot in so long.
Yeah. There's an actual song called Tooted and Booted. But anyway. Anything else in social media?
I think that's it. Did you see the female basketball player from Baylor that got drafted after she was paralyzed?
No.
So in this last season, she collided with another player. Her name is Dee Richards.
Yeah.
Love a Dee. She collided with the player, hit the ground. Everyone was like, that sounds fucking gnarly.
Jeez.
She was paralyzed. She was like, immediately, I couldn't feel my legs.
Are we sure it was a paralysis? Or is this classified as a like a spine contusion?
So E! News classified it as paralysis. I'm assuming
Okay.
since she had returned so quickly,
Maybe
it was just a little.
It was probably
you know
a
what I mean?
spinal cord contusion.
Because I think like 38 days later, she was playing again.
yeah, that's not no.
It wasn't, but she was doing the fucked up. She couldn't feel her legs, couldn't move her legs.
Now
had to
Jesus
walk with
is a
walker.
miracle worker. Yes, he is. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
But that's a contusion.
Yeah, and she needed therapy and shit. And she like presents spinal cordy when you look at her walk,
Yeah.
like, you know. But so I think 38 days later, she was back on the court. She just got drafted to
That's
the New York
amazing.
WNBA team.
The New York. Oh, what are they called? I used to
The
be
New
such a
York
huge-
Liberty.
Liberty. Thank you. Liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
I really had a brain for it. Like, what are they called again? All right. So in the rehab corner, what are we talking about specifically to this week?
Some things are hard at work. I'll tell you some of them.
Specifically, yeah.
Specifically working with anyone over 150 pounds.
That's weightest. Is that the word?
Yeah. Considering as I'm over 150 pounds, yeah, it's
Exactly.
hard to work with these people.
Listen, I'm over 200 pounds and I'm okay with it.
Okay, I won't say 150. That's rude. That's me dreaming. I'll say
People will consider
300
more-
pounds.
Yes, 300 plus. Yes.
300 plus. It's just hard. It's more challenging. It's more difficult to work with bigger patients, as I myself am just one person.
Yeah.
I only have so many hands. It's a little more difficult to move. They have
Right.
more comorbidities. Okay. But it's like, that's a difficult patient. When you get to 400, 500 pounds, we're talking another story, right? Like,
Yeah. You don't need rehab.
it's increasingly hard
Yeah.
to move these people. A lot of them aren't very active. It's hard to get them up and working.
And
cetera.
if you fall, who's going to help you pick them
Ooh,
up?
and when they fall, who the fuck helps you get them up?
No one.
Also, when they start slipping at the edge of the bed, you can't just.
You can't stop
You
it.
can't stop it. It's like you can't.
You get out of the way.
When you hit 600-pound territory,
Right?
it is a different world altogether.
Yes,
Because
it
this patient is either going to be extremely mobile because they're used to throwing their body weight around, or, honey, it's you and 3 other people trying to move this motherfucker.
Was this your first 600 pounder?
No, but I think it was my first 600-pounder, not as a student.
Interesting.
I had a couple 4s pushing 5s.
Yeah.
When I was a student. This was my first on my own. PT already did the eval. You're
Yeah.
solo dolo. Should have been alone, but had a student with me for a second, so it was going to be okay. But it's the little things like of work that usually suck. Like, I don't
Leadership.
know. was just gonna say like, I hate you. Like finding things in the bed that you shouldn't find, or like, you know, they can't see or touch their feet, so their toenails are really fucking long and hanging over their toe.
I hate that.
There's this shit about being fat that that person cannot help, and
Obese.
I am not trying to be rude or mean or whatever, but you see it and you're like, this shit is fucking gross.
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever. Anyway, getting this man to the edge of the bed was it wasn't that bad. He could move a little bit, but shit, there's no good way to grab a person over 600 pounds.
No, because you don't know what to grab.
You don't know what to grab. You feel fucking rude as fuck grabbing on their side.
And then even too, as you're trying to help move them, you're just like, oh, okay, you're a big boy, you're a big girl, come on now, I need you to help me.
They know they're big, you know they're big. It's a very awkward thing to be around. So I'm already dealing with that shit, right? And then the beds in there never have sheets on them because you can't, you know, and then they're hot because they've been in bed. There's weird shit in the bed because no one wants to. Anyway, all that to say, I get him to the edge of the bed and his O2 stat drops down to 66. Mind you, I was in COVID the day before, so I don't bat an eye. But I'm like, well, shit, maybe I should bat an eye. He doesn't have COVID.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? Let me make sure the pulse ox looks right. Can't find it. Looking everywhere, tracing it back from his finger, and I see that it's leading from his finger into one of his adipose tissue.
Yeah, say that.
Anyway, I flop back his adipose tissue.
Yeah.
The chunky fucking fat part of the pulse ox is stuck in him, like on his side.
So it's not able to read correctly.
It's not able to read correctly, but how the fuck don't you feel that? I laid down on my bed this morning and was on the fucking cube of my iPhone charger, and I immediately recoil. And I had to sit back up.
Well, remember that day?
You telling me you can't feel that shit inside of you?
Because even most patients too, even if they're super thin and they have like the telemetry, like cord and stuff on their back because they can't move and get it off, and then you get them to the side of the bed, you're like, oh my god, you have an indentation of this on the side of your body or whatever. They don't feel it.
I just don't fucking believe that.
Well, here's the thing too. Remember that one time where I was eating one of my my breakfast sausages, my little vegan sausage, and that piece of meat went in my bra, and I was like, it dropped, and I was like, where did it go? And I didn't see it on the floor, so I was like, oh, maybe it just fell back in my thing. And when I got home and got ready to take a shower, and I took my bra, the piece of meat was in between my boobs. But I have huge boobs, so I didn't feel it. And my boobs didn't smell like sausage. No.
That's weird.
It just smelled like my nice boobs. That was it.
You smell like sausage at baseline. So just mixed with your own sausage shit.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't feel it. You really don't.
I just hate having to manually facilitate the fucking...
It's just difficult.
It's difficult, and I feel awkward because I know you think it's awkward, and I feel awkward because you feel awkward.
Yeah.
There's no good way to grab you. There's no good way to ask you to move. I'm trying to be very professional, and I feel bad that you feel bad.
Yeah.
I just don't like those situations.
Well, I remember, well, even this past week, my patient was not as big as yours, but he was 370. And when I saw that number, I was just like, I'm going to go ahead and turn my badge in because I'm still operating with a herniated disc. I mean, it's calming down. It's calmed down significantly, but it's still there. And I went in and I did probably, I won't say the shit.
Bed level exercises.
No, he was already in the chair. So I was like, thank you, Jesus. But then when I walked in and I saw this man sitting in this chair, and I'm like, he is not even in like the bariatric chair. And I was like, all right, sir, we're going to try to stand. Okay, we're going to do our best.
We are.
And I had the nurse on one side. I was on the other side. And I swear I gave him no facilitation. I was like, 1, 2. Oh, nope. All right, we're going to try again.
Just a little bit more. Push through those legs.
And the very next day when I did his charting, I was like, male therapist. I literally put on there, male therapist. And then I ended up getting him back a day later, 2 days later. And surprisingly, he moved very, very well. He, uses his momentum to get up, and then he's like, I really would love to go to the bathroom. And I was like, all right.
Hope you don't want to sit, right?
Okay, let's try it. Okay. The nurse is there, and we're going to try it. So we get to the bathroom. He sits on the toilet, and he goes number 2. And then he gets up, and I'm like, interesting.
You gonna have to wipe his ass.
Yes, he was like, I tried to wipe myself as much as I could, but my sternal precautions and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, your fucking sternal precautions. Anyway, so I go in and I'm like, I try to double, triple glove because I'm like, I know I'm gonna have to go in kind of deep. I know but I literally, he bends over and I'm just.
Did he make his knees touch his elbows?
No, he didn't. I was just like wrist in, booty cheeks. And I was just like, I did not go to school for this. This is not why I have a doctorate degree.
Is it not?
It's
You didn't want to
not.
wipe asses?
No, and then the way I was wedged in the bathroom with him, the nurse was like standing there with like the handing me the damn wipes, and I'm like, bitch, you should be in here. I mean, the patient was so nice, and the thing is, I think as a person who is of the obese people, myself, a lot of times we as heavier set people, we try to lighten the mood by, I guess, hate talk to ourselves, right? And so we're just like, child, you see all this dunk I got back here? Child, I'm a big girl, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so that's what he kept doing. And he just kept saying, well, you know, yeah, let me try to get my fat ass up. And, you know, oh, you see how big my butt is back there. I hope you can find it. And I'm like, don't do that.
We don't need all that.
Don't do that. Like, because I'm already in my head, don't want to do this. And you're making it worse by telling the truth. I just need you to stop. I need you to stop the self-hate right now. Just don't do it. Just don't do
I
it.
feel so bad. They're always so nice.
They are.
And they're always so helpful. And they always do we don't have to do this. We don't. And I'm like, no, we need to do it.
Yeah.
We're not going to not do it just because it's going to be a little hard.
Yeah.
But I just always grab you somewhere weird and it gets real fucking weird real quick.
Yeah. And I hate that the thing is, obesity is already a very ostracizing situation. That's something that you cannot hide, right? I don't care how many baggy clothes you wear. You're never going to be able to hide the fact that you're obese, right? And so there's already a huge stigma that's attached to obesity. And when you're working with patients who have increased body habitus, and it doesn't make it any easier. And then when they start to talk down on themselves, and you're just like, no, it's okay.
But you also can't be like, no, because like obviously they're fucking huge.
Yeah.
And they know it and you know it and you had to have 2 extra people come. They get it.
Right.
So it's a very weird space of being like, I can't be like, oh my God, no, it's fine. Because
Like
that's fucking condescending.
You're not that fat. Like
Yeah.
when you say stuff like that, like you're just like,
even though
no.
I came in here, you don't have a gown on because it doesn't fucking fit. You're wearing a sheet.
Yeah. Or you're like, let me try to get another second bariatric
Yeah.
thing, or they're in a bariatric bed and you're like, well, I can't move you this particular way because this bed does not operate like
fucking
that.
beds, dude.
Bariatric beds are the worst. When we put slider sheets on them, it's like a death trap. It's stupid.
It's just a fucking slip and like a horizontal eleviated slip and slide.
It's god awful. But yeah, I think even working with, the obese population, it's just very difficult. Even to didn't somebody call me fat this week? One of these patients that was asking about me and was like, yeah, the big girl, the big black girl. Fuck you, Mr. Johnson.
Yo, we've had a wily ass bunch of patients the last couple of months.
Yo, and then today
And
I
they're
was
all
at work.
focused on your color.
They're worried about my big black ass. And so, because even like today, I came on the unit because I work today. It's Sunday. We're recording, and I came on the unit in the ICU, and one of the nurses, she just looked really disheveled, and I was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And she's like, "Girl, this patient just called me a black bitch." I was like.
It's not funny.
It's not, but you have to
shit.
laugh. Then I had this other patient
The
today.
audacity.
He's a bit obese, and there's no such thing as a bit obese. He's obese.
If his BMI is over what it needs to be.
Yes. And so I was talking to him, and he was just like, he had an RIF or whatever, and he's just like, I just pray that the good Lord takes me because I don't want to be a burden on anybody. And I was like, sir, it's Sunday. I really don't have the energy to deal with your emotions. I don't. So I was like, sir, hey. You have been taking care of people all your life. Here you go. Well, actually, I haven't.
You're not helping yourself, dude.
And he's like, I've given a lot of money to a lot of people. God damn it, let me finish my story, sir, of encouraging you not to try to be suicidal.
If you're still giving out money.
Exactly. So then he just keeps crying. He's like, I just don't want to be a burden on anybody. But my wife is going to bring pizza for the whole entire unit. So I want you to make sure you get a few slices. How do you go from being suicidal to then order pizza? He wasn't suicidal, by the way. He was not suicidal. He was in a lot of pain.
Can't joke like that, as I told people before.
Yes, like please don't joke like that, because I'm like, the minute you put on you a nice white jacket, you're gonna look confused.
Well, as soon as they roll that fucking virtual monitor in there, that's sitter.
Right. Because just don't joke about suicide. But anyway, he was just like, I just don't want to be a burden. I said, sir, you just had surgery. You're not a burden. Like, you had surgery. Like, there's a legit reason why you can't move right now. Like, it's totally fine. But yeah, he was a heavier set guy. And then like the doctor came in and she's like, sir, your abdomen is so distended. And he's like, yeah, I know. So why are you asking me how I'm doing? I was like, I can't with these patients.
You see what's wrong and I see what's wrong.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
The patients I used to have for my patients.
Yeah.
I do not have it anymore.
No.
Like I used to, I don't know. Remember that guy who had really, really, really bad anxiety that was COVID that was waiting to get lungs.
You mean every patient that's
everyone
had
But
COVID
the
and
one
waiting
with
on lungs?
horrible anxiety. I had to stay in the room for 45 minutes just so he could calm down after we stood to get him to chill the fuck out so I could leave the room. That was patience. The other day I had someone with COVID who was having a very similar freak out. And I was just like, and he was like, I'm sorry. And I was like, it's okay. I get paid by the hour. So we're
Pretty
good
much.
here. We're good.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, and I was like, no. So I'd like for you to wrap it up. But I mean, worst comes to worst, I'm still getting paid to be here. So.
Very true. Yeah. 'Cause
Fuck.
that's the same thing the patient said to me. The same patient said to me today. He was just, when he was talking about not wanting to be a burden, he was like, because you probably have other things to do. I was like, sir, I'm getting time and a half right now. I can stay here another 23 minutes.
This is it, bud.
Yeah. It's Sunday and I don't have to work Monday. So I'm getting time and a half either way.
Keep on crying.
Keep crying. I'll keep sitting here and rubbing your back. Okay. Thank you for the pizza. Appreciate that.
I need a vacation.
Yeah, but it's very difficult. You know, I just hate when people make the obvious comments about the obese population and make them feel way worse. Like, I mean, he's a big guy who can move all of that.
I know.
And it's like the patient is not deaf. They're just obese. They can
And
hear
I'm sitting
you.
here talking shit, but like as soon as someone doesn't want to get them up or move them because they're big, I get so pissed off. I'm like, just go fucking do it.
Because the thing is, you can do it safely to a degree, depending on where you are and depending on the help that you have. But at the same time, like I told the nurse, I was like, yo, the way he is in this chair, you're going to do not try to stand him and get him back to the chair because they got him from the bed to the chair earlier. And I'm like, you're going to have to recline this whole chair and just stuff the Hoyer pad up underneath him.
That's my thing too. The other day I had a patient and they're like, we need to get him in the chair. We need to get him in the chair. Had a prior CVA, right? So I'm in there. He's got some cog stuff, but I'm just asking him, hey, but at home, do you sleep in a regular bed, an adjustable bed, or a recliner chair? Because he's stiff as shit. I can't even tell. He's like, a recliner. I said, does that recliner lift you all the way up out of it? Yeah. I said, so you want me to get this man in this recliner chair who, whenever he gets into a recliner chair at home, gets lifted fucking until he's at 100 and whatever the fuck degrees that is of verticality.
Ooh.
Thank you.
Is that a GRE word?
I don't know.
Wow. Maybe you should have put E-stem to his hamstrings.
I'm just like, they don't ask the questions and then they put these big ass motherfuckers in a recliner chair that's basically at their hips or at a fucking...
Yo, our recliners in our hospitals suck.
Low. They're so low. They're so far back.
Low.
I would have to catapult this bitch out of it.
Yes, it's horrible. It's the worst. I don't understand why hospitals get these cheap ass chairs that are so low to the ground. Even some of these new areas have these low ass toilet seats. And I'm like, do you realize the population of people that you serve? This is not conducive.
Their knees are in their fucking chest sitting in this chair.
And then you're like, why haven't they gotten up with PT? Because PTs, all their backs are broken. What the fuck do you mean?
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's what I went and saw that man and I was like, sir, I said, we're going to try to stand. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it's okay.
I always say, I'm like, hey, my big goal is to get you standing, but just our goal is to get to the edge.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
show me how your legs move. That's my eval.
Hey, did you brush your teeth today? No need for me. PT will be by later. They'll get you up.
Yeah, even, no. I am not willing to sacrifice my back at all.
No, I've done it. I did it once with a patient. I'll never do it again.
I did it for way too many years. And again, like you said, because these people in our healthcare industry, they don't treat obese patients the same way that they treat, average sized people. You feel a sense of obligation that I'm not going to ostracize you because you are heavy. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, I'm a heavy person. So how the hell can I ostracize other heavy people? That's hypocritical. But I mean, it's horrible because no one is going to get them up. Like, what? I can't get them up there. You see how big they are? Okay. First of all, they did not turn big overnight. Okay. They've been obese for a very long time. This is a progressive disease. Obesity is a progressive disease. Okay.
I had a 400-pound patient tell me, no, don't call the nurse. She doesn't want to be in here. She doesn't like moving me. She doesn't want to look at me.
See, that's sad. I don't like that.
Sir.
I don't like that.
I hate that shit too so bad.
Because even when I was in Atlanta, I remember when I first became a PT.
Is that where the players play?
Yes.
And they ride on them things like every day?
Mm-hmm. And I had a preceptor because I was, new to the hospital, and we had this one girl that, of course, she was on my list, and I went in by myself at first to do the eval, and I walk in this room. This young lady was 804 pounds. Fuck. And I walked in that room, and I was like,
that's so many pounds.
I was like, I don't want to be a PT anymore. No. Imagine a new grad. That's one of the first patients that you get is an 804 pounder. You're like,
it's a daunting task.
It is. And then at the hospital, we had what was called like a code manpower, where anytime you had issues with moving heavier set people, they would literally overhead patient and say, oh, code manpower to room 555 or whatever. Then you see all of these men run from the hospital like to the room to try to help. I mean, they got maintenance people from the cafeteria. It's not like licensed people. These are just any man that's available. Come bring your ass here to help us. And
I like that. I'd use it all the time.
No, it's because it's embarrassing to the patient, because you have all these men that came in with this young lady in this bariatric bed gawking at her because they don't understand the sensitivity of the situation. They're just like, wow, she's big. Bitch, shut the fuck up and get out of here. God damn it. But God. Yeah, when I had her as a patient, we did not stand or walk. We did get her to the edge of the bed, and then one day it was a disaster. She was sliding off that fucking bed. And I had one of her legs and it was weeping. And by the time I finished with her, my uniform was soaked in weepy juices from her legs. Ugh. And so I bleached myself. I was like, I got to get out of here.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I can't tell you how many gray wipes I've rubbed on my bare skin. Because I'm like,
listen, bleach wipes, gray wipes, formaldehyde.
I don't know what this is going to do to my liver, but it sure as fuck will make me clean in the now.
Yeah.
So.
Listen, you get juices on you, you're just going to use anything that's available. Hell, you just burn your skin off. But yeah, so just be nice to people who are obese. They know that they're obese. They have been this size for a minute. They did not become this size overnight. And just remember, you are one piece of bread away from their position. Okay. So all you skinny people out there that be talking shit about heavy set people.
Yeah.
One day your bitch ass gonna be fat. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I suggest you be humble.
Run and tell that, homeboy.
Motherfuckers. All right. Anything else in the news or anything else we need to discuss?
No, I'm over this world and this life and this job.
I mean, I'm not over the life. I love life.
Oh yeah, I know. I love life.
I'm definitely over this crazy ass world.
This is a mayhem's world. Because here in this house,
we serve the Lord.
We serve the Lord.
All right, y'all. Well, thank y'all so much for tuning in again.
Y'all go out there, spread love and light, protect yourself, talk to your therapist.
Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of The Face Off with Fleming and Fowler. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at The Face Off Pod. Be sure to tune in to The Face Off every Tuesday where new episodes are released.